Yeah, buddy, what's going on, world? My name is Demetrius Glover. I go by Meech to pretty much everybody who loves me or finds me to be a friend, or I find them to be a friend. You all out there, feel free to call me Meech. Today is a very special day. We got the sun shining right now. We got so much knowledge being put out there in the world, and it's up to you to receive it. I think a lot of times people don't take the opportunity in order to educate themselves from people who may have a higher status than them with fear of being a smaller person in the mix. But from people who are far wiser than you, if you step into a room where people are far wiser than you can always learn something. And it actually is a mechanism of propelling your growth exponentially. And so you can read a million books, but if you don't apply it and also be able to take in people's learned and shared experiences, you will never be able to fully grow exponentially. And so you can still grow incrementally and over time. However, if you really want to grow, definitely take time in order to share wisdom with somebody who is a standard or a level that you feel is, I would say, educationally or wisdom wise above you. But today, that is not the topic. Today's topic is, did it happen to you or did it happen for you? And the reason why this one is important specifically is because in today's society, especially given that we coming out of a 2020 year, a hell of a year where COVID was a thing. COVID put masks on many people. It sheltered us, put us in place. Isolation, anxiety, depression, even suicide for some people. And some of us were able to pick up good habits, and some other people were able, unfortunately, picked up bad habits. And that's neither here nor there, because today is a brand new day. As we woke up, I think that sleep is still the cousin of death. And so as we died a little bit to our former selves yesterday, today we have the opportunity in order to start anew and start fresh. So throughout this live video, I want to go over a little bit more about did it happen to you or did it happen for you, and provide some learned examples, shared experiences from myself in order to help you to become a better person overall. So the mentality of a victim mentality, and many of us know this, is that you have people who, and myself, I'm conquering this myself. We all complain in some way, some facet, some way about what we don't have, what we want to have, what happened to us, the experiences that we had growing up, the experiences that we wish we had growing up. And so personally myself, I come from a middle class working mother. I shared split time when I was growing up between a middle class neighborhood and also what a lot of people would consider the hood, especially in my early years, growing up with my grandmother, and was splitting time, I should say, with my grandmother. My mother was always 100% present, but there was a time period when she went back to school and she was pursuing her MBA, and I would stay with my grandmother, and it was, with all respect and love to her, it was in the hood. And throughout that time period, I started to learn things that I didn't want, and things that I saw around me that I didn't want to have, and things that I wanted to grow through. And I'm from the South Side of Chicago, and so I knew that I always wanted a little bit more in life. And so, having said that, there were many experiences where growing up, things weren't readily accessible. So my mother, she would be the first person who literally took our family. To be honest, she's the wealthiest person in our family. And all my cousins, everybody around, never tapped into what wealth looked like. And she's not, I would say, millionaire status. However, she has worked and put things in place, put mechanisms in place, whether that be through investing, through a host of other things that, mentality was started. Her mentality of, she grew up in the projects, having started out in the projects and then having gone from projects, which is, for people who don't know, low income housing, Section 8 housing. It basically is for people, I would say people of color, who are predominantly people of color, who are below are at the poverty line and they need housing. And so they created these projects in the south side of Chicago in order to help out with the housing. And so she started a trend of really releasing where she started at in order to go into a different mechanism of what does she really want? What does she really want to accomplish in life? And so, like I said, she's come full circle. She's an amazing person, and she taught me the resiliency that goes along with attaining a new mindset in order to achieve mental wealth and mental wellness, and then also physical wealth as well. And so I applaud her for that. Now, growing up, because she did have a lot of these for myself growing up, because she did have to start a new trend and start a new wave, I would look at all of my cousins. I would look at, a lot of my friends around me, and they all had Jordans. They all had, brand new clothes that had, brand new tags on it. And throughout the school year, I had two pairs of clothing, two or three pairs of clothing. And I went to, she paid for me to go I went to public school, probably the same amount of time I went to private school. And so when she put me in private school, she always wanted me to, get my formal education in a dynamic environment. And so when I went to private school, I had two pairs of clothing. And so I had, maybe three polos, maybe three pairs of French toast pants. And then let's see, my gym clothing, I had two pairs of that too. So in total for a year in rotation, outside of, of course, like weekend wear, which still was somewhat limited in a sense. And it wasn't name brand, but that I've come to understand that that's a great thing that it wasn't name brand. But throughout that time period, it felt like lack, like it felt like a struggle. It felt like we don't have, and I noticed that other people, it felt like they had at that time period. And then on my father's side, to give you a bit of perspective, I want you to really understand the mechanism of how this story comes full circle. On my father's side, he grew up in Compton. He was born in Compton. He was born in LA. Family is from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Around 12 years old, he ended up back in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And that was great because the crack epidemic was about to start in LA right around that time period. It's probably a 2-year gap between when he left LA and when the crack epidemic would have really started. And so that would have changed probably his lifestyle and probably changed the infrastructure of his mentality and everything like that. So his father was not present, actually alcoholic. And I've talked to his father maybe 2 times in my life. One time I called him when I was a grown man in order to tell him, hey, I made it without you. And that was okay. And for him to know that, hey, you fucked up, but me and my father were okay without you. But really to forgive him. I think that's the main thing. I called him in order to forgive him because I needed to release that, to forgive myself and forgive him for not being present. And what you don't know, you don't know. And so it wasn't like, I had this heavy hanging fruit over my head where I couldn't survive without somebody who I just did not know. I mean, for all I knew, he was essentially dead, in a sense, since he was kind of dead to me. But so anyways, my father's mentality, he was a phenomenal father. My mother and my father split when I was younger. And throughout that time period, like, I always wanted to be around my father. And so my father would always do the best he could in order to come back into my life over and over again. So like month over month, every month I would see my father. He would literally come in, sleep in his van or sleep in his car. And this is me being, as honest as possible. He endured some financial struggles that he had to, some things happened where he took on a family at like in his, like, I would say mid-30s. He took on a family, and the wife that he had at the time had 3 other kids, and then they had a daughter together. So I have 3 stepbrothers and then 1 stepsister. They're no longer together at this moment. But I say that to say this is that he made those decisions and money was tight on that end. So he would come to Chicago and he would stay in a car. He lived in Indianapolis and he would stay in his car, sleep overnight. But he made it a point to see me. He made it a point to raise me. He made it a point to be there. He would call me on the phone, everything like that. And so he was a very excellent father. He was always present. And whenever he was there, he was there. And so I would say that I won the lottery for both of my parents. And I want to make sure I gave you all adequate perspective because this is my first time going live on YouTube. And so I want to make sure I give you an adequate perspective about where I come from and who I am for that matter. And so that way I can better help you throughout your journey by you being able to have the trust factor of knowing that when I'm here, I'm going to give my all to you. I'm going to lay it all on the line. And so, all right. So fast forward, having a home where I was raised by a single mother, money was tight on both ends. You know, I would say that my mother was doing a good job of really stacking and building wealth. But with that came sacrifices, and we, TV dinners, and we didn't have, a lot to really see what real wealth looked like. But instead we were able to, she was able to save and she was able to pay for me to go to college. And that was the main thing she was trying to get at. She saved for 18 years for me to go to college. But at the time I couldn't see it. And so then on my father's end, I remember we had to take an alarm clock into the bathroom and set the timer for 7 minutes because we could only take a 7-minute shower because we could not go over that time limit for the sake of the water bill. And so, like I said, I had two older brothers, one younger brother, and then my sister, and then myself. And so in that household, we could not go over a 7-minute shower. And so that's 35 minutes in total a day for everybody. Well, for all of the kids. And then you have my father and my stepmother. And so 49 minutes in total on everybody's shower. And growing up, it didn't seem, I would say that at certain parts, I thought, things like that were happening to me. And even when it came to this mentality of scarcity, it seemed like these things were happening to me in that time period. And I couldn't understand why we couldn't have more, and why when I go to my grandmother's house, that there's crackheads and there's people on hard drugs everywhere. And I'm like, damn, this feels like a trap. Like it really felt like a trap that was happening to me at that time. But little did I know, on the flip side of all of that, I would gain a mentality of understanding how to preserve what I have and understanding how to really build within and really cultivate the wealth from the internal. And so I'm going to go back to the perspective of two different factors that we said a minute ago of my mother and my father. So my mother, she went back to school. While she was in school, I noticed two things that I've full circle have noticed that it wasn't happening to me. It was happening for me to see. So two things. One, I told you she didn't buy name brand stuff. She didn't buy Jordans. She didn't buy like a crazy amount of uniforms. She didn't buy anything that was, name brand, because she knew I was growing. She knew that by the time the year was over with, if she spent $200 on these pair of shoes, by the next year, I would be into another pair of shoes. And not only that, I was a boy. Like I'm running around in the mud. I'm not caring about, how much she spent on the shoes, but more importantly, I want to have fun. And that taught me something about being able to preserve money and being able to cut the cost when it comes to material things, especially. And so even now, like one of my main things is that quality is the main thing over quantity. And not only that, if I can get the same quality at a lower price, so say Nike at the mall, and I'm a huge fan of Nike, definitely feel free to sponsor me if y'all see this video. But one thing that I noticed is that if there is Nikes that are in the mall, they're going to be at retail price. And this is what I learned from my mother, is that if you go to a regular market, they're going to be at retail price. Now, there's two ways in order to cut that cost. And some of you might be too how you say it, too above this in order to do what I'm gonna say. But these are the things that happen for me rather than to me. So when I watched her supposedly struggle, she was actually saving money in order to teach me valuable lessons that she didn't even know about at the time. And so what happened to me is that I learned how to cut the cost. So now when it comes to sales, looking at sales, okay, if there's a sale at Nike, then I'm going to go get the Nikes that I want, but I can get it at a reduced rate rather than spending whatever that retail price is. Now, even beyond that, there are Goodwills around the country, and Goodwill is good at really being able to give you the same items that you want, but they're secondhand. And if you can still find a lot of quality at Goodwill without spending enormous prices on retail clothing, which are here today and gone tomorrow. If I have a pair of shoes and I scuff that pair of shoes really badly, it's not going to be presentable per se. And so I have to go get another pair of shoes. However, if I find that same pair of shoes at a reduced rate, it doesn't hurt as bad in my pocket by owning a reduced rate pair of shoes that were on sale or whatever the case may be, that still does the same job. But in this case, I can still get, if I scuff those shoes up, I don't feel so bad as paying for another pair of shoes. And so my mother taught me that. And so those are things that I thought they were happening to me during that time period. I'm like, why is there lack or struggle, or why is she saving every penny that she has? But she was doing two things. She was teaching me the value of an education, and that she wanted to send me to college on a fully paid through her. And then also she was teaching me the dynamic of being able to save and preserve the money that you have and not blowing it on dumb shit. And so those things were happening to me, but at the time I couldn't understand, or happening for me, but at the time I couldn't understand. I thought they were happening to me. Now on my father's side, he taught me something valuable, and I learned from his mistakes. I learned that when you find a partner, make sure your partner, what was happening to me at the time was I was looking at the vision of, okay, all we can do is take 7-minute showers apiece. Money is tight. I can't eat. I was eating well. I'm gonna put it this way. We always had food on the table, but at my father's house, he would kind of look a certain way or feel a certain way. Like, if you decided to have a binge day where you want to eat all the cereal, it's like he might ask you, hey, why are you eating all of this shit? Like you already had breakfast. Slow down. And I knew that throughout those time periods that, and they bounced between, different like they were in the hood, at one point, and then they went to a better neighborhood. And so a lot of these things that I was looking at that I thought were happening to me were actually happening for me, because I learned from his mistakes. I learned that when you find a partner, instead of finding a partner that may look good on the outside, and this is if this gets back to the person I'm talking about, any of the people I'm talking about, just know I got all the love in my heart. I'm trying to teach a lesson to the world out there. This is my experience, and to be honest, fuck it. Like I really don't care. Anyways, but with all love and respect, and unapologetic for what I'm saying right now. So my stepmother, she had some things she was working through, and I learned that when you find a partner, you want to make sure that partner is equally yoked, because when it comes to finances, especially, you want to find somebody who's able to, if you're an investor, right? And your wife, like, so for myself, like if I'm an investor in the stock market and real estate market, into my business as well, then, and my wife, if she's not an investor or has no concept of how to preserve or how to cultivate money, then as a team we lose. So it's like this. It's like Michael Jordan having somebody straight off the bench come and play in the finals with them. It doesn't work, because Mike can put up a number of shots, but as soon as he passes, as soon as he assists the ball to somebody else, or as soon as he assists the ball to that man straight off the bench, then it can go either way. It can be, the shot can be missed, and it'll bring the value of the team down. So the same thing goes if you have somebody on your team who, your partner, for instance, who doesn't know how to cultivate money, then your team loses. And the family, if you have a family dynamic, your family loses. And so in that case, I learned that what was happening to me was actually going to end up happening for me in the long run. And so now that we come full circle, it's certain things that you people out there are in the same shoes, to where there's things that are always going to happen in the world, whether they be good, bad. And you can look at the things that are bad as saying, okay, these things are happening to me. But you fail to realize that if you dig deep enough in yourself and you start to take some of the lessons, whether they be good and bad, everything is actually happening for you, as long as you find the opportunity within whatever that is happening. And so as we move throughout life, my challenge to you is to continue to understand and recognize the opportunity in order to turn a lot of things that are happening to you into things that have happened for you or are happening for you. And once you can start realizing and looking at life a little bit differently and start looking at life in a lens of opportunity, that's when life becomes abundant. And when life becomes abundant, you become more loving of yourself, and you become more loving of the people around you, and you become selfless. So that's my message for you all today. This is the first YouTube live video that I have done. However, I want to continue to tap in with you all. And so for anybody watching this, hit the subscribe button. I'll be back with you all. Hit the like button, share this with a friend, share this with somebody that you love, share this with somebody who needs it. But in the meantime, once again, my name is Demetrius Glover. I go by Meech to all of my friends. If you are my friend, you can call me Meech. And I wish you all the best. Stay blessed, stay dangerous. Adios.